Okay, we're going to try an experiment using Procreate, ScreenFlow, capture from my iPad, and audio capture from my Mac. I'm going to talk a little bit about GCD and serial queues. So we're going to start off with the main queue here. And as we know, NS run loop, the main event loop for the GUI application is here, and the main thread. So when you run your app, you're going to be executing instructions, including setting up the app and setting up the GUI and so forth. At some point during the work of the app, I decide I'm going to call dispatch queue and create a serial queue. So when I do this, my serial queue is created. Serial queue means one task at a time will be executed. The next task won't begin executing until the last one was complete. And it means that any work done on the queue can assume that it is the only work being done on the queue. So this is what happens. Dispatch queue is created over here. And again, we're going to say it is a serial queue as opposed to a concurrent queue. And one important thing about a queue is that it has its own NS run loop. So it has its own event loop that its work runs on. And there's a worker thread running using the run loop that handles the creation of task threads as work comes onto the queue. Now we do some more work down here. Whoops, that's interesting. My Apple Pencil, I'm still learning about it. Let's back that up a little. And so now we decide we're going to add a closure here. Now a closure, we're going to call it C1. And it's going to look like this. It's going to be a closure that takes no parameters and returns a void. And it does stuff. And then, so we have C1. So we're going to go over here, and we're going to say, let's put some work on the queue. We're going to say, go to C1, and we're going to put it over here as an async, dispatch async. Now what that means is we're going to put it on the serial queue, and it'll be executed, but control will return back immediately to the main thread. The main thread will not be blocked. Okay, so the work that's done is actually the placement of C1 on the queue. When C1 is placed on the queue, another thread is created, or drawn rather, from the big GCD thread pool, pulled out and assigned, and the work begins running step by step on this thread inside the run loop. When it's done, now let's say we've gone on here and we've added, let's say that there's also C2 and C3 down here, and they're exactly like C1, and that we add C2 onto the queue and C3 onto the queue. Now C2 and C3 are going to wait here. They're not executing until C1 is finished. Once C1 is finished, this thread will be returned to the thread pool. C2 will pull a thread from the thread pool, begin executing, and when it finishes, C3 will it will return its thread to the thread pool. Then C3 will pull a thread from the thread pool, execute on the run loop for the queue, and then return its thread to the thread pool.